Here we have the gang, our co-leaders, Paul N6PSE and Rob N7QT. Rob was involved in the test of RC7 of Super Fox today. Scott Jasper, another guy that came in at the last minute, a inveterate contester and an incredible CW op who was doing 40 words per minute at the same time that he was running FT8 on the computer next door. Don Dubon, a former Marine, great guy, my age. Jay K4ZLE, a veteran of many DXpeditions, who was unfortunately unable to go on the CY9C because he just had a knee replacement. But he's 81 years old and he was ready and willing to go. His friend Jay K7DC, who was Temotu Power and Light, myself and David Flack, who unfortunately became ill right before the DXpedition and was not able to go. So here are the Solomon Islands. Oh yeah, look at that. This is my first attempt as a Zoom presenter. Solomon Islands sitting right here. You can see they're close to a lot of stuff, but where we were is where this little arrow is in the far reaches of the Solomon Islands that qualify as a separate entity thanks to DXCC rules. But you can see the distance from the main island, the town of Honiara on the island of Guadalcanal, is pretty much as far as it is from Honiara to New Guinea, Honiara to Vanuatu. It's quite a distance. Let me. This is a little more detail. Again, we were on Pigeon Island in the Reef Islands. We landed on this island right here called Lom Lom, which was a puddle jumper flight from the main airport in Honiara. So this is what I did to get ready for my first DXpedition. And that's me very happily running something. So the first one was a CW Pileup simulator, and I have no idea how to pronounce this. It's something like BruceK3NQ. If there's anyone who's a German speaker, Lucas?
BruceK3NQ, I think they call it BruceK3NQ.
BruceK3NQ. Well, anyway, I found this and began using this so I could make sure I was doing okay in the pileups. Now let me go ahead and escape out of this, go into our file. And here's an example of the BruceK3NQ. Thank you. Here's an example of the BruceK3NQ. I did this holding my phone in one hand and using the keyboard in the other to try to give you guys about 10 or 20 seconds of what it looks like. So here it goes. Oh, that isn't working.
You have to minimize.
Yeah, you have to minimize that.
Okay, let's start all over again then. Yeah.
When you shared, did you share PowerPoint or desktop?
I'm sharing desktop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you have to minimize PowerPoint.
Yeah, try to minimize.
The minus in the upper right.
In the upper right hand corner, hit the
Well, no, I'm trying to go back into this. And now minimize that.
No, you're only sharing PowerPoint.
I'm only sharing PowerPoint.
Stop the share.
Let's try to see if we can redo it.
So did you, here, did you hear? Oh, that is, okay.
Yeah,
Um,
so I'm sharing the entire screen.
Technology.
You know what? I can go into this. Yeah,
There you go.
Right now.
No, that didn't work either.
Move on.
Sorry, guys.
Technical difficulty. Go ahead and hit the share button. Try, that should work. Let's try that again. And then share.
Oh, let's try that again.
Yeah, now it should work.
You should just be able to bring PowerPoint back up. Just click on PowerPoint.
Yeah,
There you
got it.
go.
There we go. The next thing I did was practicing with N1MM log. I used my TS990 with that using a wind keyer. And there's a little example of the customized messages, calls, and reports. The last thing I did was Morris Runner, which I was using through N1MM. So using N1M for that. And if I'm sure most of you have used this, but it's amazingly realistic. You can add QRM, QRN, Flutter, and you can add lids, which is the best part. If there's ever a shortage of lids. At this point, I think I'm going to turn the presentation over to Paul. These are the 2,000 pounds of gear that were shipped to the Solomon Islands. Let me go ahead and do the next one, and then it's all yours. I had made my usual plans with a flight from to Los Angeles to meet the rest of the gang and fly ultimately to Lom Lom. But my
Paul, will
What?
you hit slideshow up at the top of the menu so we don't have anything but the slideshow?
He wants you to hit slideshow. They're seeing that. If you hit slideshow, they'll just see the slide.
We'll make it bigger.
There you
There
go.
we
Now,
go.
now they're seeing that.
Okay, guys. So at this point, my flight on American Airlines from San Francisco to Los Angeles was 3 hours late. So as I was taxiing into LAX, the entire team had already met in LA and was taxiing out on the Air Fiji flight to Fiji. And so I made it to LA again about a minute or two after they left. And I got in line with American Airlines. And meanwhile, I'm on the phone. I was on the phone for about an hour with them telling me I couldn't get there from here. I finally got a hold of a guy that was really, really nice and was trying to show off to a new trainee who managed to route me from the next morning from Los Angeles to Tokyo, from Tokyo to Melbourne, from Melbourne to Brisbane, and then from Brisbane to Honiara. And so I made it. I made it 2 days late, and I met the whole gang. And here we are.
Paul?
Guys, I'm sorry about the technical difficulties. I'm still at heart an analog guy.
Thank you, Bruce. So here you can see the team at the curb here at the airport. We sort of acclimated ourselves in Honiara for about 5 days, waiting for the flights to Temotu. Next slide. And you can see the red ski bag there. It's interesting. We had to hand carry a lot of our gear with us. We did ship amplifiers and coax and a lot of stuff, but we had to hand carry our antennas with us. And the reason for that, and you see that red ski bag there was actually 3 of those. We were using in Temotu the same exact antennas that were used at Clipperton Island. So these had been tried and tested at Clipperton, and they were going on another trip to Temotu. So we had to hand carry it. Thanks. And while we were in Honiara, killing those 5 days, we got to do some sightseeing, and we visited a lot of the historical World War II sites of significance. In fact, right outside the airport, this airport in Honiara was Henderson Field during World War II, and the site of major epic battles. And this anti-aircraft gun here is in place where it was during World War II, right at Henderson Field. We visited various monuments and whatnot, and really felt the gravity of the war and the loss of life, and just how hard it was to do battle there because of the climate and the mosquitoes and the malaria. And it was just a god awful place to do war. Next slide. Here's our little puddle jumper. You might wonder, why did we only have a team of 8 guys? This is why. This plane could only take 8 of us. In fact, at the very last minute, they squished, I think, 5 of us, Bruce and a couple of the other big guys, in this plane. And then they split our group in half, and a couple of the other guys went in a slightly larger air-conditioned plane, and actually got there ahead of us, because this was the puddle jumper, and we stopped and jumped into every puddle on the way there. Next slide. So our venue for operating here is called Pigeon Island. This is a privately owned island by an Australian expat named Ben Hepworth, and he's a really super nice guy. And he and his family have lived for several generations on this island, which is only a few miles from the larger neighboring island where Lom Lom, the airport, is. The island is 7 acres. It more or less the southwest end, and then so it kind of goes southwest to northeast. And we set our antennas up here on the very northern tip. Now this island is all jungle. There's a slight clearing here and here, but it's all jungle. And the other thing is that the tides here were extremely dramatic. And every 12 hours, the ocean would leave us, and it would literally, the nearest saltwater would be 1/8 of a mile away. We could actually walk to the neighboring islands. And so we expected to have really nice saltwater reflectivity from our verticals, but the verticals were up elevated on this limestone rock that we were on. They were a good 30 feet above the saltwater, and most of the time the saltwater was pretty far from us. So looking back now, the type of antennas we used, it's really amazing that it all worked as well as it did, because it really should have. We were very lucky to have great propagation. Next slide. Here's just another crude drawing of the island. Basically, the owner's house is here. We had most of our meals at his house on his porch, the sleeping shack here, and then some of his family members have little huts out here. And this was our operating hut up here at the north end. There's a generator house here that provides power and lights for the homes for the residents. We brought our own generator and put it right outside our operating hut. Next. And then here you see azimuth map of the directions there. Basically, we would start out our day at sunrise working South America, North America, and then towards the middle of the day and the later part of the day, we'd be working Asia and Australia and New Zealand. We brought a hex beam Yagi as a backup antenna. We didn't use it, so all of our antennas were verticals, every single one except the 6-meter Yagi. So we were not turning Yagis to work, you guys. It's just propagation was doing all the work. Next. Here's a view out the airplane window as we're coming into Lom Lom. You can see the coral and the beautiful ocean there, and then the jungles and stuff. This was not Pigeon Island, however. Next. This is the plane that brought the second part of our team in. It was larger and had air conditioning, which might have been pretty nice. Sadly, anyway, no, that's for later. Anyway, go ahead. Next. Here's our puddle jumper. And go ahead, and then,
And you can notice the plane is being refueled. There was not enough fuel to get back to, so you can see the hand pump.
yeah, look. See the barrels, they actually roll these barrels.
With the hand pump.
They actually roll the barrels out to the plane and then hand pump to fill up the plane.
And the barrels were really rusty.
Okay, next. And in Lom Lom, it's a big deal when the weekly flight comes in. I mean, lots of food stuff comes in and all the villagers show up, and there were hundreds of villagers just to see the plane land and see who came in and whatnot. It's really a big deal. This is the airport terminal. This is both arrivals, baggage claim, and departures. Okay,
And there's no security lot.
yeah. Okay, do you want to do another video?
And get that video.
You have to minimize it.
It should work okay now.
Okay.
There you go.
So here's a view of the plane getting ready to depart. You can see there's Jay right there, Don. The other Jay, Rob, and the plane getting ready. This is the Havilland -8. We're getting the screen.
Go into slideshow.
Great.
There you go.
Next.
This,
Yeah, this is the Lom Lom International Airport. It's a dirt and grass runway. It was kind of interesting when we were coming into land, we actually had to do a boarded landing. I think the pilot figured out that we had a tailwind as we were coming in and things were just not lining up right. So we went and did a big U-turning, came and landed the other way. Okay. Thanks. I wouldn't bother with that.
Oh, is it okay?
Keep going. This was the boat that we put all our gear in and we basically the crew paddled us through these mangrove waterways to Pigeon Island. So it was kind of interesting. We had to duck our heads at time to go under the mangroves. Next. This is what Pigeon Island looks like. Our shack was right here on the edge and our antennas would be in this jungle right here. We actually had to hack out enough clearing to make room for our antennas. It was definitely, it was pretty lush. Next. And again, here's Pigeon Island from the air. Our antennas would be up here and our shack was right in here. So they were all right here, kind of a half moon curve. That's where the antennas were. This was our snorkeling site. Bruce and I had an amazing afternoon snorkel right here. It was really amazing. And we, at low tide, we could walk in this area all the way around the island.
Paul. Remember,
Okay.
people on Zoom can't see you.
Right. Okay, next.
So kind of describe what you're pointing at.
This is our shack seen from low tide out in the area that would normally have water in it. Okay.
The water would stretch up so that it was right at the border of the shack. And
Yeah.
then you'd look out and you would see no water for a half mile. There was so much hydrologic resistance from all the little islands and reefs that it took forever for the water to come in and then forever for the water to leave. So the tidal range wasn't tropical. It was insane.
Okay, next. Okay, here's the mangrove swamp. We had some of that on our island and some of that on the other islands, and you could not possibly go through there. It was like a barrier. You just could not go through it. Here is another view of our shack with our Starlink sitting up here on the roof right in the middle. And then we got a Honeywell, I think it was a 4,000 watt generator. That ran on gasoline and that powered the whole operation. Next.
And you could tell when the FT8 cycles were starting and ending.
Yeah, the generator let us know. It would groan when the FT8 cycle was going. Next. Okay, here's Scott, NE9U, putting together one of the first verticals. He's a brilliant guy. He's working in the shade there on our porch and getting it all together. That was one of the first antennas. And here's Rob and I think Jay working on a VDA array. They've got it leaning up against one of the villagers' hammocks there, and they're getting it all together. Here are the 10-meter and 12-meter verticals. The 10-meter vertical on the left there is hard to see. It was supposed to be a vertical dipole array, but we had some SWR issues, and so it was just a very simple 10-meter vertical. And then the 12-meter vertical, same thing. The two, it was supposed to be two verticals in a dipole array, and we had SWR issues, and so we went with a single 12 vertical antennas. These were up about 30 feet, maybe 25 feet above the salt water, which was straight ahead. And they work like gangbusters. Thankfully, we were very fortunate to have really good propagation. And then the 15 and 17 meter VDAs, the 15 being on the left and the 17 meter VDA being on the right. These are slightly directional single pole vertical dipole arrays with two elements. They work very well. Here's a 20-meter phased verticals. The SWR was fine, so we actually had, one about 7-8 feet away from the other. And again, these were just fresh back from Clipperton. They'd worked great at Clipperton, and they work great for us here. Here's our 40-meter vertical. This was in a little clearing area. That worked very well. This is a 80-meter vertical. We used a DX Commander antenna with various wire elements that we could put up and down on it. So we use this for 30 at times, and then we changed after we worked everybody on 30. We put it up as 80 towards the last few days of our trip and worked everybody on 80. Now for our 160-meter antenna, we brought several different antennas. We planned to do a spider pole. And then we found this guy who seemed that he could climb just about anything. And we said, hey, can we give you $1 to climb up this tree? And he took our wire and went up there, and then we tied a rock to it and threw it over to another coconut tree. So we had about a maybe 90-foot tall inverted L on like 60. Here's our 6-meter Yagi, and boy, we tried our darnest to work you guys. We started out every day around 9 a.m. pointing towards South America and then North America. And then when we started picking up JAs in Australia on the back of the beam, we turned to them. We turned it every day. We turned it a lot. We ended up working over 500 JAs and I think probably 20 or 30 Victor Kilos and ZLs, but we just did not work any North or South America, unfortunately. Okay. This was our sleep hut, and that was the little trail that we'd walk down between the shack and the eating area. So that was our sleep hut, and we'll give you a view inside there. This is our water source. Basically, they catch rainwater on the roof, and it runs through a little pipe, and it's filtered by an old washcloth and a dish towel, and then it goes into a tank, and that's what we drank. And some of us experienced some very unique side effects of drinking that water. In fact, towards the end of our trip, a group of the guys went on a day trip to a neighboring village to say hello and meet them. I wanted to go, but I was experiencing the revenge of drinking the rainwater catchment. We looked in the tank and things looked back at us. Inside the sleeping shack, some of the guys brought mosquito nets with them. We had the luxury of fans, and we had rats and lizards and big spiders
And big termites.
and yeah,
I'd wake up every morning covered in sawdust.
there was a lot of wildlife in that shack, in that hut. Next.
That was inside.
Next. Spacebar.
There you go. Now it should work.
There it is.
Okay, another view. This was our social gathering area. We had this old couch here, which the roof leaked on, and it was kind of mushy, kind of spongy when you sat on it, and when you got off it, you were more wet than when you sat on it. Here's our shack. We've got 4 stations going 24/7. Generally, these 2 stations here were mostly SSB and CW, and then these 2 side by side were usually FT8 modes. Here I am, I'm having a blast running 10 meters FT8 to Europe. You can see it's dark out. It's like the middle of the night. So I'm working Europe on 10-meter FT8, and I'm working you guys on 80-meter FT8. And it was so fun to see all your calls popping up in there. And, here I'm working Europe and just incredible rate in the middle of the night on 10 meters and working you guys on 80. That was the highlight of the trip for me. Next. Here's Bruce and Jay. Yeah, Bruce, it looks like he's probably doing an FT mode because he's doesn't have a headset on. And then Jay's doing CW. Behind Bruce there, you can see a counter full of these big giant 4 Oscar 3 Alpha bandpass filters. Those enabled us to run high power on at the same time on various bands without interfering with each other. We did have a little bit of interference. We had 2 filters that failed, and so we had to work around that. But there's Don and Scott. Scott's running 2 stations FT8 there, and Don's running CW. So we really tried hard to keep 4 stations on the air as much as we could with a 7-man team. Next. And here's what our screen looks like. And I see a lot of 9s there on the screen. I don't know if I see any of you guys, but this is what the FT8 Fox and Hound screen looks like. And this is the queue down here that we load, so you can put 10 calls in the queue. And when you're running 4 or 5 streams, you're pretty busy just loading that queue. If you're running 2 streams or 3 streams, you can kind of relax a little bit, but 4 or 5 streams, you're just busy. Next. This is our view out the shack of the neighboring island. And again, at low tide, we could walk over to the neighboring island. That's where the village was that the team went to visit later, and they'll show you a video of that. Next. This is a little dock that is used when the tide is up to get out to the various boats. A lot of the neighbors come by Pigeon Island to buy gasoline or buy food items. Ben Hepworth's daughter has a little store there, and she sells things to the neighboring people. Next. Okay, we're going to show you a little video here, and Bruce is going to tell you about this visit to the neighboring island. It was kind of a highlight for a lot of these guys. I really wanted to go, but I was staying close to the facilities that day. These kids had created these musical instruments, and it's really unique how they were using them.
This is a panoramic view of the island itself, which is a very, very traditional Solomonese island, with everyone basically living by family units. And here's our gang, and the kids were just so darn cute.
The sound of what you played then.
Yeah. And for this, we're not there.
They gave a little musical performance. They're using shoes.
No, those just pieces of PVC?
Yeah, they're just PVC pipes lashed together. Wow.
Yeah, they made a traditional reed drum using bamboo that was cut to different resonant frequencies. And they did a air column with the shoes. It was magnificent when we were there. That's a religious hymn.
Guys, I think you have to share the audio. That's the problem.
Get the microphone up to the speaker.
Is that better?
Notice the kids are all getting, they're so teenagers. The teenagers go off to Honiara from high school and also will never return. It's really nothing for them in these islands.
What's the native language? What languages must come on this?
They have about 70 different dialects in the Solomon Islands, and they're not really understandable to each other. So the common language they call Pidgin, and it's mainly English. So that's how people that live on different islands communicate with each other. These are very, very isolated communities. Only about 60% of the kids even have access to primary school. Uh, This is myself with the camera aimed backwards, my phone. And there were the exciting thing that was happening in town that day is that we were visiting. So everyone was following us around. The kid's blonde hair is natural. There's a local genetic mutation that gives people blonde hair. So about a third of the folks have blonde hair. Here's more of the gang, all posing in the town. It was a nice visit. This is in the Anglican church. So the kids are inside the church and we're on the outside. Oh,
This is the porch at Ben's house. This is where they would do the cooking and we would have our breakfast, lunch and dinner, although most of us were on just 2 meals a day because we were pretty busy operating. Our host Ben there, this is Ben right here. He's an Australian fella, really nice guy. We're having a real treat. He scored some beer and we're having a beer with him. So we'd have all of our meals here. Next slide. The food situation there was kind of challenging. We didn't have a lot of variety. We go to the next slide. No. Oh, space bar.
Well, no, the space bar isn't working.
You gotta get that thumbs up.
The next shot is a picture of our food. We had fried reef fish. We had that quite a bit. We had canned liverwurst with most meals. We lovingly called it mystery meat. We had a canned tuna that was kind of akin to our cat food. And we had small plantains or bananas. And that was really our diet for the month that we were there. It was not a lot of variety. I did enjoy the papaya, which was just out of this world. It was really good. We did have a little bit of coconut water here and there. Next. So this is the day of departure. We've loaded up all of our gear, put it in storage at Ben's place for it to be taken to Honiara, and then we're carrying all our luggage and our antennas and ski bags and everything. We actually got aboard the longboat and made the trip to a neighboring island where the airport is. And we actually got to use this truck to go several miles across the island to a waterway that we had to cross. Next slide. So we had to cross this waterway to get to the airport. So some of the locals helped us carry our gear, but we just had to, you know, put it up here and the walk through the water is only about a foot deep. But yeah, I was thinking of that movie Planes, Trains and Automobiles is where, as we're making this trek, is like, you know, okay, what's next? You know, we're gonna have to swing, you know, from ropes in the jungle to get there or what? Next. So kind of to wrap up, first of all, I want to thank all of you in the Northern California DX Club for very generously supporting this DXpedition. You guys were our most generous donor, and it really helped us a lot. It's very, very expensive to get 2,000 pounds of equipment to Temotu, and it's equally as expensive to get it back. Here's some of our statistics. Our 7 guys made 60,000 QSOs, 15,000 unique QSOs in the log. We worked I think one of the area I really wish we could have done better. We only worked 535 people on 160 meter FT8. I think our feed line to our 160 antenna was too long, and I think our signals were just too puny. We should have done better there, but we did really well on 80. We did 60, 40, 30, you know, the stats are pretty good. Next. And I want to show you this because quite often DXpeditions are judged about how fair and equitable they were to work the whole world. This here, where we worked EU, we worked 35%. Asia, we worked 35%. North America, we worked 23%. This is not an accident. This is by design. I worked very hard. I paid attention to the stats every day in Club Log. And you get a nice picture like this. If you, in this case, we were at Asia's front door. And we could work Asia 24/7 on almost all bands. So we had to park Asia quite a bit. And fortunately, they're very polite, respectful amateurs in Asia. And, you know, we took advantage of the openings to Europe to work Europe. And we had some amazing openings to Europe. And the West Coast obviously was very loud and very easy and whatnot. But you've seen a lot of skewed graphs like this from other DXpeditions, and I really applied myself to really try to meet the need and make it as fair and equitable as possible. Next.
Now, it looks not many to South America.
There's not a lot of guys in South America. They were easy to work. They were loud. There's just not a lot of them. Here's our QSL card, and in closing, we hope that you had a good time working us. We had a good time working you guys, and you know, we'd love to do it again. There's some things we do differently. We certainly eat differently.
Bring your own water.
Yeah, we actually bought a lot of bottled water and had it shipped there, but it got diverted. It got seized by some government people. They wanted it. We paid for their water.
Yeah, it was, you know, as my first DXpedition, it was a ball. I really, really enjoyed it. I was impressed at how polite most of the folks in the pileups were. You know, and it was just great. Paul made it a wonderful DXpedition. Everyone enjoyed it. Everyone said they'd happily follow Paul to the ends of the earth, or to Beauvais, whichever comes first. So again, thank you all. It was great seeing your calls, spooling down on FT8 and hearing you on CW. And I just had a great time.
Well,
So thanks again, guys.
Thank you guys for going out.
Anybody have
Question.
Yeah,
So your generator was 4 kilowatts.
yeah.
So how much power were you running to sideband and CW and to FT8?
Each station was at a minimum 500 watts, but there were a few times where I brought my Flex PTXL, and that thing, I saw a lot of sideband usage where it was doing 1,200-1,300 watts on sideband. And it'll do that all day long till the cows come home. But on FTE, 500 to 700 watts usually is about what we were running. But like I said, we tried to keep 4 stations going around the clock. Sometimes it was 3, but for the most
So
part, 4.
you were pushing that generator right to its max.
Absolutely, we were pushing it. And it was brand new and we changed the oil a couple of times and it really held up. It did a good job.
Uh-huh.
Any other questions?
Any questions on Zoom?
Thank you, everyone.
Great job. Thank you.